most important information about intervention in Somalia?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot here, and this is one of the parts in the book where I think Scott has a real what's the libertarian term, comparative advantage, where it's not like Scott knows as much about Somalia as he does Afghanistan, but he knows more about Somalia than essentially anybody else in the U.S. and really understands like the 20-year history, 30-year history of the U.S. intervention in ism in Somalia, going all the way back to like the Black Hawk Down incident, which to me was just a Hollywood movie growing up, right? So yeah, definitely check out the Somalia chapter of this book. I guess the part that that's most interesting to me, and I think maybe has the most significance at the moment, is in so like there's this period in Somalia after the government collapses, right, where you have warlords controlling everything, and then it kind of evolves into this semi-anarchist quasi-government called the Islamic Courts Union. It's a group of 13 Islamic groups in Somalia that essentially set up some kind of system to allow some kind of like justice to happen, right? Like there's some kind of court system now. Is it probably the greatest, like most liberal just system in the world? No, but if there is a standard of justice where like if somebody comes and steals 3 of your sheep, like you have somewhere to go to get some kind of restitution that is going to create a more civil society than if your only option is essentially to go like try to steal your sheep back or like, kidnap your neighbor's kid and hold them at ransom, right? Like, these are kind of the two situations. And so the Islamic Courts Union was bringing some stability, some progress, some recovery to Somalia. And then the United States backed an Ethiopian invasion of Somalia. And at the time, the group in control of Ethiopia was the Tigrayans. And now they're a part of the TPLF, the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, which is at war with the Ethiopian government right now. And I think that the U.S. has been pretty favorable and pushed the narrative of the Tigrayans quite a bit throughout that conflict, and in part because the TPLF is like a proxy force of the U.S. where if we have a sock puppet in charge in Ethiopia, which is the second most populous African country, massive military. Right now they got a bunch of drones and everything like that, but back when the U.S. was backing them, they had advanced military equipment too. Then this could be deployed to the region to squash different groups, and Americans won't care, right? Like if the Ethiopians invade and are killing the Somalis, Keith, what chance do you think I have of convincing any kind of normie to listen to anything I have to say about that? If it's the Americans dropping bombs on Somalia, if American soldiers are dying in Somalia, then Americans will definitely care. And so the U.S. has used the TPLF as a proxy force in Somalia in the past and quashed the one real effort in the past couple decades that Somalia had towards establishing a more functioning society that, actually exists. Now, one other thing I want to mention, and I don't think this is in Scott's book. I didn't have a chance to re-skim through the Somali part, but the last edit of the book I read before Scott published the final copy didn't have this in there. In 2016, the U.S. actually tried to wage a counterinsurgency effort, a new counterinsurgency effort in Somalia, and they tried to take over this town Barari from the Al-Shabaab, which after the Ethiopian intervention in Somalia, they crushed the Islamic Courts Union, and only one group of the Islamic Courts Union survived, and that was Al-Shabaab, which has become the violent group. They publicly swear allegiance to Al-Qaeda, although I think it's kind of a misnomer to say like this is an Al-Qaeda linked group, as if they're going to like carry out an attack against the West or something like that. They'll target U.S. military personnel in neighboring Kenya, but they're not crossing the Atlantic. Right. So anyways, the U.S. tries to wage this counterinsurgency against al-Shabaab, and in doing so, they partner with different branches of the Somali special forces and everything like that. The Somali special forces, for whatever reason, showed up to a town and executed 10 civilians. The next week, somebody from that town drove a massive, like, multi-thousand pound bomb, attempted to get into the area of Somalia that is like the Baghdad green zone where like the international embassies and all that are, was unable to do so. But along that road is where all the refugees and displaced people in Somalia were living. And so he detonated the bomb there, causing the biggest terrorist attack in African history. And I believe this is October of 2016 that this attack happens, killing over 600 people. And they just have no idea how many people died because, you know, there's just refugees on the side of the road that were obliterated by the bomb blast. But, you know, this is just another example of how, you know, American blowback creates terrorism and all that.